Hi, folks. We are getting ready to roll here at the Fallon Forum at the Webcast One Live studio. We're going to talk about voter suppression. Secretary of State Matt Schultz doing some things that have some folks really worried about how it's going to keep some folks from getting to the polls. Joseph Glazebrook is going to join us. Also, Joe Henry. Later in the program, Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions, talking about energy efficiency and saving you some big bucks and some energy.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
This moment of silence brought to you by Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering, home of Des Moines' premier rooftop dining experience. Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant Bar and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions will give you a comprehensive energy audit that will cost you nothing. Tim will identify the many ways in which you can reduce energy use while saving money. Ed Fallon had Tim over for an audit last month and was amazed at how much energy was going through the roof, the doors, and the windows. So, before the cold winds of winter blow, give Tim a call at 515-802-2801. That's 515-802-2801.
Open Sesame is Des Moines' premier Lebanese cafe. This month, Open Sesame is offering an unbeatable lunch special on Monday and Tuesdays. Mention the Fallon Forum when you order anything on Open Sesame's delicious lunch menu and get the second item for half price. That's right, buy one, get one for half price. Open Sesame's pita wraps, salads, soup, and mouth-watering Mideastern specialties will have you and your dining partner coming back again and again. Open Sesame at 313 East Locust Street in Des Moines' historic East Village.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hello, folks. This is the Fallon Forum coming at you. Remember, when you're done hearing us babble here, you can hear Bradshaw babble at 1:30. Bradshaw's on every day from 1:30 to 2:30 or after the Fallon Forum. I want to thank right up front Webcast One Live for helping to host this program in the Skywalk in downtown Des Moines, right across from Palmer's Deli. I also want to thank my producer, Maddie Arrington. You know, get this stuff out of the way early because I always forget about it later on. So tonight, later in the program, Tim Reynolds will be with us to talk about energy efficiency, which is the biggest component. If we really want to move toward a more sustainable energy future, renewables, great, but efficiency even better. We're going to talk with him about that when we kick off the third segment of the show later this afternoon. But to start it off, Matt Schultz has come under a lot of fire for his efforts to suppress the vote. We're going to talk right now with Joe Henry with LULAC about that. Also, Joseph Glazebrook, a local attorney. And just to look ahead real quick to the second half of the show, second segment of the show, we're going to talk about Judge Wiggins and the effort to bounce him. That's not going so well for Bobby Vanderplatz these days, and some of us couldn't be happier. But to kick it off right now, voter suppression, this stuff is going on all over the country. We got our own situation right here in Iowa, and I want to welcome to the program Joseph Glazebrook, Des Moines attorney with Glazebrook and Moe. And also Joe Henry, who is a realtor who also is with LULAC. And I cannot remember the acronym that LULAC represents.
League of United Latin American Citizens.
Okay, and you've
83 years old.
83 years old?
Yes.
Okay, and you've been working really hard to try to drum up, to let folks know, folks who are legally eligible to vote, to let them know, Latinos, to let them know that they have the right and the opportunity to vote.
Yeah, we've been out there educating our community about the right to vote. And letting them know under this thing that the Secretary of State's been trying to do. that our people have the right to go to the polls as long as they're registered to vote. Get there, vote early, and we've been doing pretty good. We've been reaching out to different parts of the state. We have 4 councils in the state. We have about 400 members. But there's 158,000 plus Latinos in the state, and over half, 158,000.
That's way up, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it's close to 6% of the population.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Latinos had become the largest minority demographic in the state, but that's a significant increase.
Yeah, and it's very important this year because about half of that population is the adult population, and then 50% of that 70,000, 80,000 Latinos, we are already registered to vote. So we're well at 50% plus, and we are working this year to register more Latinos. We've already identified 35,000 registered Latinos. We plan on helping to register another 15,000 Latinos in the state.
Right. Between now and the election?
We're working on it.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, and really, let's be honest, the election has already begun. We're 1 week into early voting, and more and more people are opting for early voting.
Right.
Not me. Too old-fashioned. Got to go to the polls. Sorry, it's in my blood. Yeah. But that's good. And I think, there's going to be some folks, and maybe folks who are lined up with Matt Schultz on some of his initiatives, who will argue that, this is an attempt to register illegals to vote. But that's not what's happening, is it?
No, it's so sad because, the overwhelming majority of us have been here for, some of us, like myself, my family's been here since 1917.
You're Latino descent.
I am Latino, yes. I am Latino, and my family's been here since 1917 on my mom's side. Now, on the German side of me, they've been here probably since 1940.
God,
maybe they need to be checked out.
You're one of the 2 people I know who are German-Mexican cross.
Right.
Seems to work out okay.
Yeah. But it's very sad. I mean, since the last presidential election, another 3,500 new citizens have come into being, and it's interesting how the Secretary of State has kind of looked at 3,500 people that he has alleged that may be illegal or not legally able to vote since the last election.
And that's based on a federal registry, I believe, that's been circulated.
Well, actually, Ed, one thing the Secretary was trying to get was the federal registry, but our litigation has put a block on that, at least temporarily. In the meantime, Secretary Schultz is using the DOT records, and he's cross-referencing the Iowa DOT records with the voter rolls. And what he's doing is anytime there's a name that appears on the voter rolls but was listed in the DOT records as not being a citizen, then he's putting them on a list, and he's sending out his agent and trying to discover a problem that's really not there.
Yeah, and again, you would say that the motivation, and maybe you don't want to make guesses about this, but it seems pretty clear to me that the motivation is to try to keep constituencies out of away from the polls who are inclined to vote Democratic.
Well, it's hard to definitively say what his motivation is, but let me make a couple observations. First of all, we know the method that he's using is deeply flawed. We know thousands of people, as Mr. Henry just said, became citizens between the last election and this election. And the DOT records are only updated every 5 years. So obviously the gap there of information is substantial. And it's certainly not a reliable way to determine whether a non-citizen is registered to vote. We also know that Secretary of State Schultz ran on a platform of combating alleged voter fraud. He campaigned strongly on that issue. He sought legislation in the Iowa General Assembly, and in that endeavor he failed. And then in July of this year, Ed, he published 2 new administrative rules, one of which was designed to give him more authority to investigate these cases by creating another process for just anybody to file a complaint without verification or anything like that. And the other rule was designed to cross-check Iowa voters who had last names perhaps that sounded Hispanic with
like Henry.
Like Henry, like Martinez, like Gonzalez, I'm sure Joe. We actually compiled a list of names that are pretty common. But he was going to the rule says he was going to cross-reference some data here in Iowa with, quote, unspecified state and federal databases, unquote, and then use that information to start purging the Iowa voter rolls.
Folks, if you just joined in, we're talking with Joseph Glazebrook, a Des Moines attorney, and also Joe Henry with LULAC, the League of United
Latin American Citizens.
Latin American Citizens. Yeah. There we go. And if you want to join the conversation, you can do that at 244-0077, 244-0077, or toll free, it's 855-244-0077. Let's go to line one. Matt, who do we got? Dave, how you doing?
Pretty good there, Ed.
What's on your mind?
Well, I'm just listening to the broadcast here, and I'm thinking about the issue of voter fraud, and it seems to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that the only thing that has ever been discovered that makes much difference at all in terms of voter rolls as far as you might think of fraud is apparently been committed by the Republican Party.
The
vote counting company that was fired in Florida, most of the voting irregularities come from Republican events, just like the situation in their primary where they were unable to properly count the votes from at least one county as far as who won the primary. I think the cause of the problem seems to be, if there is one, seems to be pretty obvious.
Are you saying the Republicans can't count, Dave?
Yes, I am.
Well, you might be right. You know, when I went to my Republican caucus, and I will announce I'm actually no longer registered a Democrat. I'm an independent, but I get all sorts of fun Republican mailers in my mailbox these days. But Republicans elected me to be the caucus secretary to count the votes and the money. So yeah, maybe there's something to that. But yeah, it seems like it's a good point. Either Joe or Joseph want to comment on that?
Sure. Just briefly, this story is relatively new. It's been hitting the national press the last few days. What we saw was this firm, and I think it's like, I can't remember the acronym, but it's a firm that the Republican Party hired in several states, including Florida and North Carolina and a few other swing states. And it turns out that, at least in part, this company had been going out and trying to register Republicans, but in the process had been taking people who registered as Democrats and discarding their registration forms. So what would happen is these voters would think that they were registered because this firm had them fill out a voter registration application, and then they show up on election day.
I heard also that they said they were telling people that we're only registering Republicans.
Yeah, and some people, they were just being upfront with it. In some cases,
they were
too.
hired by the Republican National Committee, I guess.
Right.
I think the group is called Strategic Allied Consulting.
That's it. Yeah.
But you can't. I mean, yeah, I guess you could only. Well, I mean, you could refuse to register somebody. I guess if you're going door to door, I suppose you can do that, right?
It depends on the particular state. I know that's illegal in some states. I don't know if that's illegal here in Iowa.
But you certainly can't throw away a voter registration card filled out by a Democrat.
Certainly not.
No, that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, Dave, it's a good point. Thank you for the call. Joseph, Joe Henry, did you want to comment on that as well?
Well, again, I kind of want to jump in a different way. When people become new citizens here, when they've been immigrants coming in legally, which is mostly the case, right after they become naturalized citizens, they immediately, most of the time, they're encouraged to register to vote. So this is just a very sad thing to have the Secretary of State do this, to be checking on whether or not somebody is registered to vote who's a new citizen, because it is something that a new citizen feels very proud about. So to second guess that, to ask them to prove their position is so wrong. And also the way in which this law that he wants to try to implement works out is that if the Secretary of State says, we feel that you may be not legally able to vote, you have only 2 weeks to prove yourself. Now, for new citizens, to put together the documentation to prove that they are citizens may take months. So it just throws them out of the ability to vote. Right. So this is just very wrong.
And again, the only word that I can think of for it is voter suppression.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's fascinating to me that there were lots of complaints about Acorn, and you heard the right-wing pundits on the talk shows across the country railing against. I mean, Glenn Beck could not say the word acorn often enough. There's a few other words he would say as often, but that was. I mean, he just can't. Acorn was the embodiment of evil. Why aren't they similarly concerned about this? I mean, this is much worse. This is more blatant.
That's right. And you know, the thing with Acorn is Acorn was, I think there were a few cases of having some individuals register fictitious names like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck to vote. Well, okay, that's not good, but at least Mickey Mouse, we're pretty sure, is not going to show up the day of the election and actually vote. There was just a problem with the registration. And so what Acorn did was it reported these problems. It self-reported these problems. It brought these problems to light by itself. And when it was figured out, obviously the right-wing individuals who didn't approve of what Acorn was doing in registering citizens used all of their political muscle to basically shut Acorn out of business. And now we see something that, like you said, is 10 times worse, and we hear absolutely nothing from the Republicans. Now,
people have been challenging Matt Schultz to identify verifiable cases of voter fraud. And if memory serves, they came up with 2. Did I miss something, or were there 2 that were discovered?
Well,
one in Council Bluffs, and I can't remember what the other one was.
Yeah, there were 3 people arrested in Council Bluffs for some sort of election-related misconduct. You know, the code calls it election misconduct. Basically, the allegation is that these 3 individuals were registered to vote and had voted in previous elections when they were not eligible. But if you take a look at those cases, they're actually not. It appears like they didn't have the intent to vote without proper authorization. It looks like what happened was there were 2 Canadians who were both mistaken about whether they could vote in non-presidential elections, and so they ended up voting in 2010. It looks like.
What they knew they were Canadians?
They knew they were Canadians, but they thought that only the presidential election was the one where non-citizens could not vote.
That's the kind of geographic cluelessness you expect from Americans, not Canadians.
Oh yeah, I like Canadians.
I heard of a guy years ago. This is a true story. Who packed up his car full of all his possessions, drove to Quebec, came to the border, and the border patrol said, "Well, what's going on?" "Well, I'm moving to Montreal." Well, actually, you're an American citizen. No, you're not moving to Montreal. But anyway, I'm surprised. But yeah, that's fairly. It's not malicious.
Yeah, there's
clueless,
there's
but not
no
malicious.
evidence of willful intent.
Right.
And that goes pretty much across the board. And so, you know, first Secretary Schultz was saying that there are thousands and thousands of cases of voter fraud. Then he had it down to 3,500, and then he said somewhere along the line he said maybe 2,000, and now we've got 3, and they're not even really fraud. They're just mistaken beliefs on the part of the voters.
His numbers on voter fraud are as bad as Governor Brance's numbers are on jobs he wants to create. Anyway, it's kind of remarkable. So beyond the voter ID, beyond the photo ID that Matt Schultz wants to require people to present, what are some of the other things he's attempting to do to suppress the vote?
Well, this whole process, as he's doing now with this special rules, that's the big thing. That's the big thing for us in the Latino community.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see anything happening in the next legislative session on this?
Well, we'll see. We did go to a hearing that happened last month over at the state legislature. We talked to the committee that made up of Democrats and Republicans, both from the House and the Senate, and we gave them our feedback, our feelings about what was going on. Clearly, we want a hearing, a public hearing to discuss these special rules or these emergency rules that the Secretary of State wants to implement. So hopefully the state legislature will begin some form of public hearing to go county to county to allow people, we as citizens, to talk about what this is all about. It is just so sad. Again, we feel that this is politically motivated.
Yeah.
And that if they're going to be doing something out of the Secretary of State's office, they should be doing things that encourage people to register to vote, not to try to suppress it. Because again, we feel this is politically motivated.
Now, to get a public hearing, you don't need Republican support for that in the state house. It requires I think like 7 maybe members of any particular committee. So the 7 Democrats, for example, on the Republican-controlled House State Government Committee could request that hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
What was interesting, one of the legislators brought up to Secretary of State Schultz, why didn't he not bring this up to the state legislature last March, when he was thinking that this was something that he wanted to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, this could be brought up.
Any last thoughts, Joseph, before we
Well, just
take
the
a
other
break?
thing, just keep in mind that these are administrative rules, which means that it's the executive branch acting unilaterally to supposedly implement some existing law. And what Secretary Schultz did here was he used what are known as emergency rulemaking powers to go around the public hearing and public notice and comment process, and therefore he wanted to sidestep the checks and balances that are in place, and then he even wanted to try to dismiss the court case that we filed because he didn't want a judge looking at it either. And so there's a lot of questions about why he's being so resistant to other branches of government reviewing what he's doing. I think that raises some questions.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. We're actually going to keep Joseph Glazebrook in the studio. When we come back, we're going to talk about the campaign to oust Judge Wiggins. Every 4 years, Supreme Court judges and other judges are on the ballot with a simple yes/no vote regarding whether they should be retained. A couple of years ago, Bob Vanderplatz led an effort to oust the three that voted in favor of the marriage equality ruling. He was successful. This time around, it's not going so well for Bobby VP. And it looks like right now Judge Wiggins is positioned, according to the polls, to retain his seat. And if that wasn't enough, in today's Des Moines Register and earlier this week in the Sioux City Journal, former Speaker of the House Chris Rance came out with an opinion piece that I think might seal the lid on this one. Rance and I didn't always agree, but gosh, we sure agree this time. We'll be back to talk about the issue with Joseph Glazebrook in a few minutes here on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Community CPA is the 15th largest CPA firm in Iowa, providing audit, tax, and accounting services. Community CPA specializes in international tax treaty and double taxation avoidance among countries and states. 9 dedicated, experienced, hardworking staff are the company's foundation, and their compassion towards every client is the secret behind Community CPA's success. At Community CPA, you can expect quality service year-round. Call 288-3188. Community CPA, 3816 Ingersoll. Experience the difference.
Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions will give you a comprehensive energy audit that will cost you nothing. Tim will identify the many ways in which you can reduce energy use while saving money. Ed Fallon had Tim over for an audit last month and was amazed at how much energy was going through the roof, the doors, and the windows. So, before the cold winds of winter blow, give Tim a call at 515-802-2801. That's 515-802-2801.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Hi, folks. It's Ed Fallon here. Proof Restaurant at 13th and Locust. You've probably been there for their award-winning, nationally recognized lunch specials. Well, now Proof is open Thursdays and Fridays for supper. And here's where the chefs really get creative. Let me tell you, they're like artists, okay? I've been there, and it is one of the best meals I have had in Des Moines. I've heard that from other people. You got to check it out. Proof for supper, Thursdays and Fridays, and also the second Saturday of the month. Do not assume you can get in. Make reservations. Contact Proof Restaurant online at proofrestaurant.com or 244-0655. That's 244-0655.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker-owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
There is hope Visit groundwire.net and chat now with a live coach for answers.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey folks, welcome back. That's Mr. Babers Neighbors bringing us into the second segment of this conversation today here on the Fallon Forum. Again, later in the program, Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions is going to join us. It's one of those how-to sections that I like to do, segments that I like to do from time to time that give you, we talk a little bit about issues, of course, energy efficiency, renewables, but the bottom line is there are some really good practical things you can learn from having Tim in your life in a minimal way. Anyway, you don't want to move in with you, I don't think. Well, I don't know. He's a nice guy. Maybe you do. Maybe you need a roommate. But anyway, we're going to talk about, politics makes interesting bedfellows, and my... The former lawmaker that I love dearly today is Chris Rance. You know, Rance and I, we always got along well enough. But I respect him for speaking his mind. And he has spoken his mind very candidly on the judicial retention issue. I'm sure that maybe you were a little bit surprised to read that article, that opinion piece as well, Joseph?
I was. I remember in 2000 and I want to say 10, maybe 9, I remember Chris Rance giving a press conference in the back steps of the House chamber, strongly and vehemently denouncing his colleagues in the House for not voting to enact the amendment. But you know, you can see where he's coming from. It's a different issue.
Well, in 1996, even remember the anti-gay marriage legislation, the ban on same-gender marriage, was first passed in the House in '96. It failed in the Senate. It didn't pass both chambers till '98. But even in '96, the buzz in the chamber was that the legislation as drafted, as passed, with only 11 dissenting votes, was unconstitutional. That was pretty much a common talking point, but never really discussed broadly in the public. But it was pretty. I mean, and Rance is reiterating this. My memory as well. Yeah, this is not going to be. This is not going to pass a constitutional challenge, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
11 years later. And
I think he alludes to that in the article. You know, the law in question, which was the State Defense of Marriage Act, was a statute that quite explicitly limited marriage as between one man and one woman, and those kinds of laws were very popular in the 90s because of what had happened in the state of Hawaii, which very briefly allowed for gay marriage, and then in Vermont, which had the civil unions come up. So these laws were very popular at that time. But at the same time, you know, whenever the legislature creates a law that treats people differently, they have to be careful because we have constitutional provisions that strongly disfavor that sort of law. And that's what the Supreme Court ruled here in Iowa in 2009, that Iowa's Constitution prohibited that law from a constitutional standpoint because it was discriminatory against gay and lesbian Iowans. I
think Rance's point, too, is if you are anti-gay marriage, which, again, we think is the wrong position, but if you're against gay marriage, then you should not take it out on Justice Wiggins. You should take it out on the state legislature because they knew they had not passed a law that was going to stand up against a constitutional challenge. You know, I mean, Rance, I guess, would probably, when push comes to shove, blame the Democratic Senate.
Sure.
But the bottom line, it was the legislature that failed to produce a bill that was constitutional. So, yeah, don't take it out on the justice.
Right. And, you know, the whole point of this article and the whole point of this issue is that courts are put in place by our founders, okay? They were designed to be a non-political branch of our government. They were designed to be shielded largely from the political process because the decisions that judges have to make and the Constitution itself can come up and it can be quite unpopular. Let me give you an example that's not about gay marriage so you see what I'm talking about. The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees that individuals have the right to remain silent. They do not have to give incriminating evidence against themselves. All right, so imagine you have, let's say, a serial killer in custody, and he's going to go to trial. And the prosecution really wants to call him because that's the only way they can get a conviction and get the serial killer sent to prison for the rest of his life. Well, That would be nice if they could call them. But our Constitution simply doesn't allow it. The Constitution says you can't do that. And even if all of the people of the state of Iowa gathered outside the courthouse and started protesting and say, the will of the people is to make this guy testify so we can get that conviction, it is the judge's duty and obligation under the Constitution to not let that happen, to protect the individual's rights even when it's unpopular. And so that's why it's so important that we allow our judiciary to remain independent so they are not pressured into making decisions that are unconstitutional.
And there are states where that's not the case. And we have a good process here in Iowa that was enacted back in the 1960s,
right,
where judges don't have to campaign for re-election because the mechanism for retaining them in office is a simple yes or no vote on a checkbox. Sure. And the way they're selected too, it's not purely political. It's fairly balanced. You've got a lot of people involved, not just a governor making a partisan decision.
That's right.
But in some states, I mean, look what happened in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where you had a judge that was very personally and financially connected with a private juvenile home, and he used his position as a judge to fill that juvenile home with youthful offenders, many of whom came before him without even anything resembling a fair trial. He packed that place full to his profit. Yes, justice did work out in this case because he's actually serving time, not in the juvenile home, but he is serving time as he should be for that. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing to do.
Yes.
And that probably wouldn't be the case if he hadn't been in a state where he could use the power of money to secure his position, where challengers were, I mean, again, I don't know the specifics of the types of challenges he faced, but that's the kind of scenario that we want to see prevented here in Iowa. And again, to Chris Rance's credit, he understands the value of an independent judiciary.
Yes. And
he understands where, again, if folks are concerned about marriage equality, he knows where the true blame ought to lie. And unlike, and again, I kind of wish Rance had spoken out on this a couple of years ago.
Sure. And a couple of years ago, the dynamic was a little different. Mm-hmm. This year, the national election dynamics are such that maybe this is a little bit tougher battle for Bob Vander Plaats. But that being said, let me just go back to this idea of an independent judiciary because it's really important. The judicial branch of government is not supposed to be directly influenced by the whims and temporary thoughts and feelings of, I would say both the people and the special interest groups that have become so prevalent in our society. As a matter of fact, the judicial branch is supposed to be somewhat blocked off from those considerations because they're charged with interpreting the law, and that is it. And when they're influenced by political pressures, which might be appropriate for legislators or presidents, but the court is not supposed to make political decisions. It's supposed to make legal decisions. And so there is a check. There's a check against the court if the people were to so seek to use it. Actually, there's several checks. One is to elect people to the political branches of government who are tasked with putting judges in place who agree with them. So you can vote for the governor that you think is more likely to appoint people to the judicial nominating convention that you agree with, and then would ultimately choose judges that you agree with. Secondly, the legislature does have the power to impeach judges for misconduct. So if a judge is doing something corrupt, like the judge in Pennsylvania was, there's a very good mechanism there. And finally, third, is the amendment process or the state lawmaking process in general. So if you disagree with a decision that a court makes, you can simply petition your legislators to change the law, which has the effect of trumping what the court did. If they do a constitutional amendment, that would trump a constitutional decision. If they do a statute, that would trump a common law decision. It gets a little complicated, but the point is the legislature has that check.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting, too, just to look at the polls, and the poll just released earlier this week, or was it late last week? But anyway, it's very recent. And it shows that Judge Wiggins is polling favorably by about 5 or 6 or 7 percentage points.
Yeah.
Which is different. I mean, again, 2 years ago, the 3 judges, and with Marcia Turnus, I think, being ousted most severely, she lost by the biggest margin. It still wasn't a huge. It wasn't a huge rejection. It was 55% voted no.
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Roughly. I mean, it might have even been less for one of the judges, but right now it's looking very favorable. So again, not just this is before Chris Rance's piece, which I think that piece is going to help. I want to commend him for taking that
Absolutely.
stand. Apparently, on the Des Moines Register's website, he's getting no shortage of hate mail.
Well, actually, it's the Sioux City Journal's website.
Sioux City Journal, okay.
Plenty of opposition to Rance from the most committed Bob Vanderblat's supporters. But let's remember who Bob Vanderblat is, okay? He's a guy who ran for governor, what, twice?
Three
times, lost 3 times. Now, in the face of a career that didn't go so well, he's got to find a way to support himself. And how is he going to do that? Well, he's going to convince a bunch of people that there's this huge issue with judges, even though there's not. And he's going to go out there and he's going to try to get these people to give him money so he can go around the state of Iowa in a bus and try to convince the world that the judges are our enemy. And as a matter of fact, Chris Rance does a nice job highlighting this other case where Justice Wiggins sided with a very conservative group of people. And so the point is, Bob Vanderblat doesn't have a lot of credibility. He simply doesn't have a lot of credibility.
And really, judges are just the convenient sidekick to his real punching bag is the gay and lesbian community. He doesn't like gay people much.
That is certainly true.
And and 2 of my former colleagues, Chuck Hurley and Danny Carroll, who I got along with personally, but they seem to be on the same kick, and it's a losing battle. I mean, they're not. This is going to be a footnote in history. And it's not going to be a favorable one when it comes to folks who have been using the gay community as a target for discrimination. And Justice Wiggins happens to be caught in the crossfire, but I think he's going to pull through.
I sure hope so. These polls are great, but let's keep in mind that a poll, even of likely voters, is not necessarily an accurate measure of who's going to come out and retain a judge or not retain a judge. A lot of voters go out to the polls and they vote either on the political offices or they check that straight party ticket box on the front, and then they don't take the time to turn the ballot over and vote on the judges. And maybe normally that's not the end of the world, but in these last 2 elections, when we've had these special interest groups receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars from out of state, running around the state on this crusade to try to scare our judiciary into changing how they follow the law. It is really important for everybody to take the time, just a few extra seconds to turn the ballot over, find that place where it says, shall we retain these judges, and vote yes, especially on Wiggins. But I think the only reason you should vote no on to retain a judge is whether they've engaged in misconduct, not whether you disagree with a particular decision.
What if they beat you at poker once and you resent that?
That's maybe that's a stronger argument. Not it's borderline, but I still would vote. I would vote to retain every single judge on this particular.
And
ballot.
they usually win by 70%.
Sure.
And, there's always a handful of people, 20, 25, 30%, who are just they're mad at the judiciary for some reason. Sometimes maybe there's a decent reason sometimes, but it isn't logical to go from that concern to voting everybody out. But again, 25% of the voters do that. So with Vanderplas starting with that as his base and convincing the anti-gay crowd to join him, that was the problem for the 3 judges 2 years ago. A little more time has passed. More people have gotten more comfortable with the idea that gays and lesbians should have the right, like anyone else, to marry.
Yeah, there was a poll on the marriage equality issue. I think the Republican firm actually commissioned this poll. It was on the Iowa Republican. Craig Robinson was commenting on it. Basically, the poll said, and this was a Republican poll, something like 49% of Iowans supported marriage equality.
That's huge.
42% did not, or something along those lines. And so that's a significant.
It's just,
change.
What percentage of Americans now support interracial marriage? 90-something, But 40 years ago, only a minority of people believed that was the right thing. So we've made progress. And I hope that people do take the time to study this issue a bit more, because it really, Rance's piece hits the crux of it. This is not how you feel about gays and lesbians getting married. This is about how you feel about an independent judiciary that should function as a check on power in our three-tiered system of government. So,
yes,
Joseph, thank you so much for joining us, folks. We're gonna come back with a different topic here in a few minutes. Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions is my guest. We're going to talk about energy efficiency and tightening up your house so the cold air and the mice can't get in.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day one of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going.
Hi folks, Ed Fallon here. When it is time to entertain, think of Gateway Market. Let them handle the details. Gateway offers a wide variety of stress-free options like cut-to-order cheese and charcuterie. There's a delicious olive bar and a wide variety of chef-prepared dips and spreads. Or let the catering team take care of the entire event, right down to the wine and beer pairings. The expert floral designers can even customize the perfect centerpieces. So stop by or visit Gateway Market for more information. Gateway is at Woodland and ML King in downtown Des Moines. Good food, great entertaining.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. On 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
With warm weather finally here, it's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hello, folks. Welcome back. That's Pumptown and their tune Bicycle. Bicycle. One of my favorite tunes. One of my favorite things to do. You know, another one of my favorite things to do is to not waste. I hate wasting stuff. I hate wasting food. I hate wasting my time. And I hate wasting your time. And I hate wasting energy. And I had this guy right here over the other day to tell me how energy efficient my living space was. Well, it wasn't very energy efficient. And we identified lots of ways that I can save money and energy. Of course, reducing my carbon footprint, very important to me. But why not save some bucks in the meantime? And we'll especially as we move into the cold months, I want to talk more with Tim about his services. But there's a particular program that he's brought to my attention that I want to learn more about and hopefully interest you in learning more about as well. It's the PACE program.
Yeah, and the PACE program is actually a Property Assessed Clean Energy Initiative. It's actually a way to...
That's what it stands for, Property Assessed Clean Energy.
Yep, and then it's a way to finance energy efficiency upgrades and renewable energy upgrades to buildings. This is a program that allows homeowners to evaluate measures to achieve energy savings and receive 100% financing repaid as a property tax assessment for up to 20 years. And this is a local program designed to finance projects at the state government level.
Okay,
this
so
has nothing to do with the federal government. We're trying to keep all this local.
So the state initiated this program?
This program has not been enacted in the state of Iowa. I will like to try to get this enacted
Gotcha.
in the state
So
of
it's
Iowa.
in other states?
It is in 28 other 28 other states, including the District of Columbia and some of our neighbors, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Missouri. So we're kind of lacking, actually.
Because there's no federal element to it.
The only federal element that we have for this program is from the FHFA. It's called the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And in 2010, the agency put residential PACE on hold. The reasoning is because they believe that the PACE assessments are not valid and should be treated like loans. Another argument is they're unlike routine tax assessments.
So where did the program actually initiate? Was it initiated at a state legislative level somewhere?
Yep, exactly.
Which state?
California.
California?
Yep, and then it's been put over. I think Michigan has it. A lot of the East Coast has it. The 4 that I just listed.
And the idea is to provide rebates? Or?
What it is, so if I come over to your qualified energy auditor comes over and assesses your property, and we give you a plan like I did for about 20% reduction in your home.
Okay.
Instead of customer have to pay the upfront cost, the rebate from the state level pays for that, and the cost gets put onto the property taxes paid over 20-year time.
Because sometimes in the past, at least, you have to pay the full cost of the insulation, for example, or whatever the energy efficiency program is. Yeah, then you get reimbursed.
Exactly.
And for some people, that's a cash flow problem.
Exactly.
Okay, because you're looking maybe at several $1,000 bucks.
$7,000-$8,000, possibly, maybe less. It just really depends on the situation.
And so this pays you up front. No.
The state. So City of Des Moines would pay for the retrofit work and add it to your property taxes that you pay annually. And then it'll be averaged out over a 20-year time period.
Okay.
So instead of having the initial cost, we're looking at a savings to investment ratio that is actually paying itself off over the years, and you're just paying onto your property taxes for the upfront cost.
Okay.
So
the city absorbs the initial cost.
Exactly, and then it gets put back onto your
So your neighbors assume the initial cost, essentially.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and you as a homeowner also.
Yeah. And the businesses that pay taxes and everyone else. Yeah.
Exactly. And then as soon as the retrofit work has been completed, the homeowner starts paying on their property taxes for that to get that payment.
So what percentage of the actual tab for that work will the homeowner eventually pay? Will it be?
There's no interest involved with it. This is just onto your tax, your property taxes. The problem, it's providing a long-term financing at a low cost and making it easy for building owners to transfer the repayment obligation to the new owner. So if you sold your house, that initial assessment is going to follow along with that property sales tax.
Okay, and the new homeowner in that case doesn't really have an option.
No, and they're saving the money, they're saving on their energy bills, so it's actually
presumably
increasing.
They'd like it,
exactly. So this is a win-win situation for everybody except Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who are the ones who do not like this program.
Oh, really? Is that where I was about to ask you, where is the opposition coming from? Fannie and Freddie.
Yeah, just our best friends over there.
Frank called in to talk about voter suppression. Frank, you should have stayed on hold because now we're talking about Fannie and Freddie, and you love to pick on them.
So what the FHFA notice and proposed rule allows now is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac bring default proceedings against homeowners with PACE assessments that are not paid off on demand.
Well, how do they get away with that?
Because they're the ones who were underwriting the mortgages on the homes, and on the federal level, they say that these energy audits aren't a benefit to the homeowner, and it's not a benefit to the actual mortgage, so it's not going to be a selling point for them. It also will prohibit Fannie and Freddie from consenting to a PACE assessment and directs Fannie and Freddie to not underwrite any mortgages for this.
So despite Fannie and Freddie's opposition, this program has been enacted in 28 states.
Exactly. And it's been put on a hold since 2010, and it has to go through a 4-part process where they initiate to figure out the findings. Then there's going to be a public comment, which public comment ended on July 15th of this year.
So Fannie and Freddie basically pushed the U.S. Congress to
FHFA
to delay it.
To delay it. So we're waiting for the final ruling to be handed down from the court system to see how far this will actually go.
Our friends in the federal government.
We got, and this is a state program, is what it just kind of grabs me by the
it's the opposite of an unfunded mandate. It's the federal government meddling in a program that has nothing to do with federal money
at all,
but it's interfering with
progress,
so-called progress. We're putting it in quotes. Folks, if you're just tuning in, Tim Reynolds is my guest. Tim is with Reynolds Energy Solutions. If you want to join the conversation at any way, shape, or form, 244-0077, 244-0077. And Tim, if you don your headset, we'll take a call. We'll go to Mandy. What do we got?
We got Frank. He wants to talk about energy efficiency.
Frank, is this Frank from Des Moines?
Yes, this is your buddy Frank.
Well, good to have you on the show, Frank. We were just picking on Freddie and Fannie. I figured you'd want to be a part of that.
Yeah, that would be an hour show in and of itself.
Right.
Well, I want to really talk about voter suppression, but since you got off of that topic, I will talk about energy efficiency. Since
you snooze, you lose. So yeah, go ahead.
Well, just since they picked up my recycling here about 3 minutes ago.
All right.
They've been running diesel trucks. And about the last, you get your recycling picked up every 2 weeks. So about 3 recyclings ago, as of today, they're now running their new natural gas trucks. And I happened to talk to the driver, since I do some truck driving, Class B chauffeur once in a while. We have a little in common, so I was talking to him about it. And he says, these things, compared to the diesel, really get lousy gas mileage. Or fuel mileage. And I said, well, I guess we're told that we have more natural gas in this country than Iran has oil
or nuclear power.
So just something for you libs or progressives to feed on.
Okay.
That some of you are against natural gas and the production of and the use of.
There are issues with natural gas, but that's I've got somebody coming on my program next week to talk about that a bit. But let me ask you this, Frank: have you had an energy audit done?
No.
Well, why not?
Because I'm not that concerned. I mean, it is. It is.
Wait! You're a fiscal conservative.
No,
that means you like this.
I live in a cracker box.
Yeah, but you want to save money, don't you? How much energy are you letting go through your roof?
As my grandpa used to say, there's nothing wrong with that car except it needs a new one between the license plates. Well, the only thing wrong with my house is it needs a new one between the lot lines.
Okay, but in the meantime, you're, Frank, you like money. You're a Republican, right? So
sure.
So you don't want to waste energy because it's wasting money. I mean, I know you don't care about the planet,
I read your newsletter. And I seen that you ride your bicycle a lot, and you only filled up your car twice this summer. And good boy that you're gouging them darn oil companies.
I'm not gouging them. I'm just not doing business with them.
Well, yes, you feel as if
they're gouging everyone else but me.
You're making a statement. You're making a statement that they're raking you over the coals, and you ain't going to take it anymore. So take that.
Not just Mr. Fallon. The whole American public with $700 billion of tax breaks every year.
Yes, but wind energy, for your information, is the most subsidized form of energy that we have in this country.
We've had that conversation, Frank. But hey, I want to get back to I want to finish up my conversation with Tim on PACE. But Frank, you should stay on the line and listen, because I think even your little cracker box, for as long as you have to live in this cracker box and don't get a chance to replace what's between the lot lines, it might not be a bad idea to have Tim over to give you some idea of what you could do to save money. It won't cost you a penny, by the way. Come on, you're a cheapskate. It won't cost you a penny.
Well, I'll certainly listen.
All right, listen in, Frank. We're not going to hang up on you because we love you. Okay, Tim. So again, this is news to me. I was not aware of this.
Yeah, and I've just been made aware of this within the past 6 months, actually. So I've been doing more research on it and then trying to figure out the ins and outs of the program.
Freddie and Fannie picking on little old state legislatures.
They love to do that.
Yeah. So anyway, the legislature here in Iowa, there has been some discussion about enacting this program.
Not to my knowledge. I would like to speak with any legislator that would love to work with me on this. And
okay. And was there nothing prior to 2010 when the feds put the kibosh on it?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
And when did they lift their kind of?
We're waiting for the final ruling actually from the court system to be handed down. So within the next.
So was there a legal challenge to the federal government's authority to limit the program?
Exactly. They have to put it up for public comment on there and see what the public actually feels about this.
Yeah.
They had great response, over 60,000 positive responses for that program. So now it is waiting for the ruling from the court system at this point.
So is there any reason, though, why a legislator, conservative, I mean, again, this is not a progressive or conservative. This is not a left-right, Democrat-Republican issue. Again, folks like Frank, you want to save money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't care about energy issues, you want to save money. And certainly you don't want the federal government telling a state that it can't do something that doesn't even involve any federal money. This is good stuff on both sides of the aisle.
It is. It is. And I would love to work with anybody on both sides of the aisle. So I would be doing legwork too if you all wish.
Yeah. So let's talk about ways we can push that along, because I understand it's going to have to wait until
the ruling is
finished, and that you're expecting that this year, next year.
Hopefully I'm guessing after the election time, before anything.
And again, the plaintiff and defendant in this case are who again? Freddie and Fannie, or is the FHA?
It's the FHA, and then because of how many mortgages that Freddie and Fannie hold. They don't want them to proceed with anything that deals with this program until all the details are.
And is the defendant is it a class? Is it the American public? Who's the defendant?
That I'm not aware of at this point in time.
Yeah. Well, it's probably some individual or maybe some state.
I think it's a grouping of different organizations.
All right. So it wouldn't hurt, though, in my opinion. It wouldn't hurt even if the ruling is slow to come down, even if the FHA appeals it and drags this through the courts again. I mean, that's presuming the ruling is favorable. It would not hurt for the legislature to begin a conversation about this.
No.
Because that takes a while. It takes time to get. I mean, it may take more than 1 year, more than one session. So you get the ball rolling, and then while that's happening, the ruling happens. Hopefully, it happens. It's favorable.
Positive.
Yeah. But I mean, the federal government has a lot of power. I mean. All my Ron Paul friends remind me of that on a regular basis, and this is an example of them using it in a wrong-headed manner, I think. So
I feel the same, actually.
Right. So we'll get an update on this, because I think this is an important conversation to have. But real quickly, in the last couple of minutes we have here, Tim, you come in and do energy audits, and this isn't just he looks around and says, "Oh, there's a leak in your window there," because I had him over, and it was like a 2-hour. 2.5 hour situation where we 2.5.
Yeah, about 2.5 hours, and I had another guy with me there helping out. We do diagnostic testing of the home, so we actually use building science to figure out how much energy the home loses, and then put together a plan to figure out how to save the energy. We do air infiltration testing with a big fan we hook up to the front of the door to depressurize
this
the
big
home.
red device that just sucks your home totally out of air.
Yep, and any air removed is going to be replaced by the outside air. Then we can walk around with thermal imaging camera or smoke gun to figure out exactly where the leaks are.
Even if there wasn't any energy or monetary value to you, the entertainment value is huge. I mean, this is fun to watch. This is fun to watch.
Is.
And again, you don't have to just sit there, and you don't have to be an astute student the entire 2.5 hours. You can be cleaning the house. I was working on some show prep while Tim was out sucking the air out of my house.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fascinating to watch, but I was amazed at how many different places you found problems. And some of those require work that would actually would save money, but also would involve a rebate.
Oh, exactly. So we're doing a program. It's called Home Performance with Energy Star. It's only available here in the Des Moines metro and Iowa City metro areas at this point in time, where Mid-American Energy is rebating the total cost to have me come out to your home and diagnose the problems within there of $150 in the form of a check. Also, if we figure out a plan to reduce your annual consumption by 20%, we could get an additional $550 rebate on top of the retrofit rebates for the specific, such as insulation, water heater, air sealing type projects.
Yeah, great. Hey, folks, Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions. You can find them online. You can find them in your attic. You can find them in your basement. You can find them all sorts of places.
All over town.
All over town.
All
anyway,
over town.
You can find them hopefully lobbying at the state legislature next year to get the PACE program up and running. Folks, thanks so much for joining us. Bradshaw will be, I sounded like Elmer Fudd there for a second. Bradshaw will be with you at 1:30, and I'll be back with you tomorrow at 12:00 noon. Again, I want to thank Maddie Arrington, my producer. I want to thank Webcast One Live. I want to thank Physicians for Social Responsibility, and also the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club.
I'm just saying. 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 Ching ching. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
Well, hi, I'm Rob Spearman. I'm a broker owner of RE/MAX Real Estate Concepts in Des Moines, Iowa. Give us a call if you're looking at buying or selling a home, or if you're having trouble on your mortgage payments or looking to purchase foreclosures. We have the agents to help you, experienced, outstanding agents. Our office number is 515-276-2872. Or if you'd like to look at homes, go to our website, homeconnectusa.com.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. And he said not only would he like to be a sponsor, but he would offer a $100 tithe for every customer that came and bought a car from him directly to the church of your choice. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.